Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The gun felt colder than the rain battering the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the barrel was pressed intimately against my temple. Choose Julian. The man with the bruised knuckles and the devil's grin whispered, his sweat mixing with the blood on his chest. The penthouse suite with the monster in the Italian suit, or the gutter with the beast who wants to devour you whole. Only one of us walks out of here with you. Across the shattered room, the CEO wiped a speck of blood from his lip, his eyes darkening into an abyss that promised retribution not against the gunman, but against me for daring to be the center of this carnage. Chapter 1. The secretary who wanted to quit. It had been 3 weeks since I woke up in the body of Julian Vane. In the grand tapestry of the novel executive orders, Julian was worse than a villain. He was a doormat. He was the pathetic, overworked executive assistant to the male lead, destined to die of a stress-induced heart attack in Chapter 40, just to facilitate a plot point where the hero feels a fleeting moment of guilt. I was not going to die for a plot point. I adjusted the rim of my silver spectacles, staring at the resignation letter resting on the obsidian desk. The office was a monument to late-stage capitalism and cold minimalism, all chrome, glass, and shadows. What is this? The voice was a low baritone that vibrated through the floorboards. Alaric Thorne, CEO of Thorne Heavy Industries and the novel's primary protagonist, stood by the window. He was unfairly attractive, drawn with the sharp, aristocratic lines typical of manhwa main characters. Jet black hair swept back, eyes the color of frozen sapphires, and shoulders broad enough to carry the global economy. "My resignation, sir," I said, keeping my voice steady. The old Julian would have been stuttering. I just wanted to go home, open a bakery, and stay away from the main cast. Alaric turned slowly. The air pressure in the room seemed to drop. He walked toward me, his movements predatory, like a panther stalking a wounded bird. He picked up the letter, his long, slender fingers brushing the paper before he shredded it in one fluid motion. "Rejected," Alaric said, letting the confetti rain down onto the Persian rug. "Sir, with all due respect—" "You fixed the Cayman accounts discrepancy," Alaric interrupted, his gaze pinning me to my chair. "You anticipated the merger blockage and drafted a contingency before legal even woke up. The Julian I knew was efficient, but he was a sheep. You—" He leaned down, placing both hands on the arms of my chair, trapping me. His cologne, sandalwood, and cold steel invaded my senses. "You have become a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I do not let valuable assets walk away. I am not an asset, Mr. Thorne. I am an employee with a 2-week notice clause. Read the addendum in your contract, Julian," he whispered, his face inches from mine. "You belong to Thorne Industries. You belong to me, until I say otherwise." That was the first red flag. In the original novel, Alaric never cared about Julian. He ignored him. My competence, intended to secure a severance package, had instead triggered the possessive CEO trope. I had to get out. Chapter 2. The Viper in the Alley. My escape plan required money. Cash that couldn't be traced by Alaric's extensive surveillance network. That night, I found myself in the neon-drenched underbelly of the city, the Red District, looking for a fence to sell a vintage watch the original Julian had inherited. The rain was relentless, turning the graffiti-stained alleys into slick mirrors. I turned a corner, checking my GPS, and walked straight into a wall of muscle. "Watch it suit," a rough voice growled. I looked up, and up. Standing under the flickering yellow street lamp was a man who looked like he had been carved out of granite and trouble. He was shirtless despite the cold, wearing only loose track pants and hand wraps. A dragon tattoo coiled up his left arm, its maw resting on his trapezius. His hair was a messy shock of bleached blonde, and his lip was split. My heart hammered. I knew him. This was Kian Rain, the underground boxing champion, the villain of the second arc, and, secretly, Alaric Thorne's illegitimate half-brother. "My apologies," I muttered, stepping back. "I took a wrong turn." Kian tilted his head. He didn't move out of the way. Instead, he stepped closer, forcing me back against the damp brick wall. He smelled of rain, old leather, and copper. "You're Thorne's lapdog," Kian said, a dangerous smirk playing on his lips. He recognized the company pin on my lapel. I cursed myself for forgetting to take it off. "I'm just a secretary," I said, my hand tightening on my umbrella. "I don't want trouble." "A secretary?" Kian laughed, a harsh, barking sound. He reached out, his callous thumb tracing the line of my jaw. The touch was electric, rough and terrifying. "You're too pretty to be pushing papers for that ice sculpture. What's he paying you?" "I can double it." "I doubt that," I retorted, my fear momentarily eclipsed by annoyance. "And unlike you, I prefer to make my living with my mind, not by getting punched in the face." Kian froze. Then, the smirk widened into a grin that showed too many teeth. The enemies to lovers dynamic was supposed to be reserved for the female lead, not the cannon fodder secretary. "Feisty," Kian murmured. He leaned in, his breath hot against my ear. "I like feisty. Tell Alaric his bastard brother says hello. And tell him." Kian's hand drifted down, resting heavily on my hip, pulling me slightly off balance. "Tell him I found a new toy I want to play with." He released me and I bolted. As I ran toward the main street, I could feel his eyes burning a hole between my shoulder blades. Chapter 3. The Cage Closes the next week was a blur of high-stakes corporate warfare. I tried to fade into the background, but the narrative gravity was pulling me apart. Alaric became suffocating. He moved my desk into his office. He monitored my calls. He began bringing me coffee, black, no sugar, which was terrifying because he was the CEO. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. The office was empty save for us. Outside, a thunderstorm raged, mirroring the tension inside. "You went to the Red District," Alaric said without looking up from his tablet. I froze while organizing files. "I was running an errand." "You met Kian." "It wasn't a question." "He accosted me." "It wasn't planned." Alaric stood up. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. He walked around his desk, undoing the cufflinks of his pristine white shirt. "Did he touch you?" "That's none of your concern, sir." "Did he touch you?" Alaric's voice dropped an octave, the authority in it causing an involuntary shiver to race down my spine. "He grabbed my jaw. That's all." Alaric closed the distance between us in 2 strides. He grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward him until our chests collided. "You are reckless, Julian. Kian breaks everything he touches just to spite me. Do you think you are special? Do you think you can survive him?" "I don't think I can survive you," I snapped, the stress finally boiling over. "I'm just an employee. Why do you care? Let me resign." Alaric's eyes flashed with an emotion I couldn't place, something between rage and desperation. "You think this is about employment?" Before I could answer, he kissed me. It wasn't a gentle, romantic kiss. It was a claiming. It was a stamp of ownership. His lips were demanding, his tongue forcing my mouth open, tasting me with a hunger that had been suppressed for too long. One of his hands tangled in my hair, tilting my head back to deepen the angle, while the other arm wrapped around my waist, crushing me against his hard body. For a moment, my mind went blank. The sensory overload was immense. The heat of his body, the taste of coffee and mint, the sheer power he radiated. But then, the panic set in. This isn't the script. I shoved him away, stumbling back, my chest heaving. You can't do that." Alaric looked at me. His lips swollen and red, his composure shattered. He looked more human than he ever had in the novel. "I can. And I will. You aren't going anywhere, Julian." Chapter 4. The boxing ring. I didn't go to work the next day. I hid in my apartment, ignoring the 50 missed calls from Alaric. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. A knock on my door. I expected Alaric. I opened it to find 2 men in leather jackets. "Mr. Vane? Kian sends his regards." Before I could scream, A bag was thrown over my head. I woke up tied to a chair in what looked like a VIP viewing box of an underground fighting arena. Below, the crowd roared. Beside me sat Kian, looking fresh from a shower, wearing a silk robe that left little to the imagination. "Wakey wakey. Sleeping Beauty?" Kian drawled, pouring a glass of whiskey. "Kidnapping? Really?" I spat, struggling against the ropes. "That is so cliché. It got you here, didn't it?" Kian swirled his drink. "Alaric is on his way. He tore through half the city to find you. I didn't think he had it in him." "Why are you doing this?" "Because he took everything from me." Kian's playful demeanor vanished, replaced by a cold bitterness. "Our father, the company, the legacy. I wanted to see what happens when I take something he actually values. I'm just a secretary. Don't lie to me." Kian slammed the glass down, shattering it. He loomed over me, grabbing the lapels of my shirt. "I saw the way he looks at you in the press photos. I saw the security detail he put on your apartment. He's obsessed. And frankly," Kian's gaze softened, dropping to my lips, "I can see why. You have a fire in you, Julian. It's a waste to let a suit extinguish it." The door to the VIP box exploded inward. Alaric stood there, flanked by his security team. He looked like the god of war. His tie was gone, his top button undone, and he was holding a gun. "Get away from him," Alaric commanded, his voice ice-cold death. Kian laughed, pulling a knife from his robe and holding it casually near my throat. "Or what, brother? You'll shoot? You might hit your pet." Chapter 5. The standoff was electric. The crowd below cheered, oblivious to the drama above. "Let him go, Kian," Alaric said, stepping into the room, his gun unwavering. "This is between us." "It's always been between us," Kian sneered. "But you always win. You always get the gold. What if I want the prize this time?" Kian pressed the blade against my skin. A thin line of blood trickled down. "Don't," Alaric's voice cracked. For the first time, I saw fear in the CEO's eyes. Not for his reputation, but for me. "Take the shares. Take the Southern Division. I don't care. Just let him go." Kian froze. The offer was astronomical. It was everything he had fought for. He looked at Alaric, then at me. "You'd give up the Southern Division? For a secretary?" Kian whispered, genuinely shocked. "He's not a secretary," Alaric said, his eyes locking with mine. "He's my partner." The word hung in the air. Partner. In the corporate sense? Or something else? Kian looked at me. He saw the way I was looking at Alaric, not with fear of the boss, but with the desperate hope of a man looking at his savior. Kian sighed, the tension leaving his shoulders. He pulled the knife away. "Boring," Kian muttered. He cut the ropes binding my hands. "You're both pathetic. Love makes you weak, Alaric. Love makes you fight for something other than yourself," Alaric countered. I scrambled out of the chair and ran to Alaric. He didn't hesitate. He dropped the gun and wrapped his arms around me, burying his face in my neck. He was shaking. The cold, unfeeling CEO was trembling. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, pulling back to inspect the cut on my neck. He touched it with a reverence that made my knees weak. "I'm fine," I breathed. "Just get me out of here." Alaric turned to Kian, who was pouring another drink. "The lawyers will contact you about the transfer. Keep your damn company?" Kian waved a hand dismissively, though his eyes lingered on me with a trace of regret. "I just wanted to see if you had a heart. Turns out you do. Pity it belongs to him." Chapter 6. A new contract. The ride back to Alaric's penthouse was silent. The adrenaline was fading, leaving me exhausted. When we arrived, he didn't take me to the guest room. He took me to his master bedroom. He sat me on the edge of the bed and retrieved a first aid kit. He cleaned the small cut on my neck with gentle, precise movements. "I tried to resign," I whispered, the absurdity of the situation hitting me. "I know," Alaric said softly. "I tried to run away. I know. Why didn't you let me?" Alaric paused. He set the antiseptic down and kneeled between my legs, looking up at me. It was a position of submission, something the Alaric of the novel would never do. Because before you changed, my life was gray, efficient, successful, and colorless. Then you woke up one day and started challenging me. You looked me in the eye. You became real. He took my hand, kissing the knuckles. I panicked when I kissed you. I thought I had ruined everything. But the thought of Kian touching you, it drove me mad. I'm not from this world, Alaric, I confessed, the secret slipping out in the intimacy of the moment. I don't belong here. I'm not the Julian you knew. I don't care where you came from, Alaric said firmly. I only care that you stay. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a new contract. Read it, he said. I unfolded it. It wasn't an employment contract. It was a cohabitation agreement. Equal partners. No power imbalance. And a clause that stated I could leave at any time, but he would spend every day trying to convince me to stay. You're ridiculous, I said, a tear slipping down my cheek. I'm a man in love, Alaric corrected. He stood up and leaned in, his eyes searching mine for permission. This time, when he kissed me, I didn't panic. I didn't push him away. I wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled him closer. The story had changed. The tragedy was gone. And as Alaric deepened the kiss, pressing me back against the silk sheets, I realized that forbidden love was much sweeter when you stopped fighting it. And that is how the secretary tamed the CEO. If you enjoyed seeing Alaric lose his composure for love, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments. Would you choose the safe, wealthy CEO or the dangerous, passionate fighter? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,